Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Bristol Real. I'm Val.
I'm Jerome.
And I'm Tom. And this is the second of our two-part podcast on AI. This one focused on ethics. So, what went on?
We talked about the specifics of its applications and the consequences it would have on existing society, and then moved on to the higher level thinking and the future.
Alright then, hope you enjoy it.
Last time we were talking about, obviously, the technology of it, but we went a bit into the ethics of it. So we'll go a little bit more into the kind of the philosophy of it and whether it's good, whether it's bad, where it's good. So a good place to start is where it's good, I suppose. And this is focused around making life easier for everyone, which is what everyone thinks about, I suppose. So with regard to the easy stuff, we're talking about transport, and that we think, like I personally think that's brilliant. Anyone got any way to expand on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. The Uber taxi autonomous thing would be pretty cool. So it'd help out elderly people and disabled people quite a lot. Beyond that, it would just be convenient and save the general public a lot of money in terms of maintaining their own cars. Have enormous environmental impact, a positive one that is, which would obviously be great. But then on the flip side of having autonomous vehicles and making them ubiquitous on the roads, you have that labour shortage, so you end up cutting out a bunch of jobs because of cargo transport, because of bus drivers, that sort of thing. So
okay, well, I reckon I'm gonna come back to this a few times today, but should jobs be our focus? Should getting everyone employed be a main focus for everyone?
Well, if you have an expanding population globally, and you intend to implement this sort of technology globally, or even just locally, then you need to make sure you have enough jobs to go around, because not being in work, gainful employment, I would say has a positive influence upon the human psyche. And
well, I think there are studies that go either way with that.
The thought is that by allowing AIs and robots to take over more basic jobs will allow people to concentrate on higher priorities.
Yeah, but people have said that for ages, though.
Yeah,
I think with various technologies.
That, though,
but the thing is, when you create an AI, it's going to get smarter and it's going to take over those more important jobs.
It's going to take over all of the jobs, exactly. Yeah. And at the moment what you have is, because you've actually seen it recently, over the last decade, 2 decades or so, where you've had the explosion with the internet, modern computing power, all that sort of thing, has actually replaced all of the really simple jobs, computationally simple jobs, so like basic arithmetic style stuff, and you end up with people doing the things that computers can't really do at the moment, which is like creativity, personal relations, that sort of thing. And if you had an AGI, you would see those remaining sectors just disappear. So it begs the question of, how do you create work for people? I think it's more of it's fundamentally, I'd say it's an economic problem, because it would absolutely be great if you could have something replace all the jobs and everybody be happy and in a place and still be prosperous, so still be wealthy and not in poverty. But it's very difficult to see how you would restructure society such that everybody would be able to have the right to, be rightfully own what's theirs.
Well, currently, I don't think the job situation at the moment is great, because a lot of people hate their job.
Yeah,
like people keep saying you'd find new jobs, but I don't think you would. Like, if everyone currently hates their job, and you say you were saying it gives them, like, there are benefits of being in employment, but is that just having benefits of having some sort of drive and some sort of focus?
Exactly, yeah, motivation.
So it's not necessarily earning money for doing menial tasks that is good. It's having a focus. So could you create that if robots were doing everything for everyone?
Yeah, having a focus. What would you say about
you can carry on with it.
What drives you at the moment? Let's answer that question. What drives you at the moment, Tom?
Well, I suppose in education, it's the feeling of kind of furthering yourself and getting better and improving.
Enjoyment, accomplishment. Kind of.
Yeah. See, the enjoyment and accomplishment thing, I think that would still be there. I was reading about this last night, and if you had an artificial superintelligence, or even just a very good general intelligence available to everyone, then you would have the best educator on the planet.
Absolutely.
And that would be incredibly fulfilling, just to be able to interact with such an entity and to be able to learn from them. So have a proper conversation with them whenever you liked, and have everything explained perfectly to you. That would be revolutionary.
Would you be able to use that knowledge to do anything?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the question.
I feel like humans are still gonna. Hopefully, like in a society where robots control everything, where you're talking about where they basically rule us.
Yeah.
No, but hopefully we're going to get to a stage where it doesn't get quite get to that, whereby we still set the path by which the computers get to do all the dirty work, but we still kind of like, oh no, we need to do that. We need to focus on that. Like,
I'm sure we'll get to that point, but it will just continue from there to the point where we have no role. I don't
you think that's inevitable?
I don't think it's something that you can just put like the brakes on. It's just gonna keep on going. I don't see how you can try and stop it.
This is actually very relevant. You know, we were speaking about last week how you would possibly incorporate into the bootloading code, something that would mean that the AI wouldn't turn on humanity or whatever.
Yeah.
I was reading a paper by Nick Bostrom, an Oxford philosopher, and he actually pointed out that if you were to program something such that it would be genuinely a friend, then typically in society, friends don't want to be not friends. So even if you had this artificial intelligence continually improving itself, then because it was your friend initially and it wanted to be your friend, then it wouldn't change its programming or physical realization such that it would be not your friend. Which I thought was a really interesting thought.
Yeah, so it has to understand the goals of what humanity wants in general, rather than have its own goals.
Then the only issue with that is that you need to figure out how you actually define friendship as an algorithm.
Yeah, it's like, as a friend, I know you need a good beating here to sort yourself out.
Yeah.
But what if it gets to the point where it's intelligent enough to realise that there's no need for it to be friends with us, as in it can accomplish better things? Why would it?
It can. This is where even if it were to realise it could do that, because it was your friend in the first instance, then it wouldn't want to be not your friend. You see, so it depends whether you think that if someone continually became, it's like social hierarchy.
Isn't that this like the Howl in 2001?
Howl 9000.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
But isn't this exactly like it? Because they didn't the administration didn't trust the astronauts with the secret of that. They had discovered that weird monolith on, was it Jupiter's moon?
Yeah. Oh no, the radio pulse was sent towards Jupiter's moon from Mars.
From the moon.
Sorry,
from the moon. Okay, the moon. Yeah, and so they told Hal that, and because he was lying to the astronauts or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And while also trying to accomplish the mission, it just kind of conflicted with that, and that's why it went.
But he clearly wanted to tell the crew.
Yeah, he wanted to tell the crew.
So that scene just before he actually screws everyone over.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't you think there's something strange about this mission?" And he tries to encourage the crew.
Yeah.
And it's actually the human shortcoming that doesn't make that they don't realise.
Yeah. If a computer does a computer by necessity have to work logically? Even if it's a super intelligent computer, does it have to work in a logical way? Because I don't know if you could logic being someone's friend and being nice to someone and acting in a human interest, which is, I think we discussed yesterday, very illogical at times. So can you build in illogicalities into an artificial intelligence?
I suppose you can do it. You can certainly do it symbolically. So that's thinking up every scenario where you act in a slightly illogical manner or very logical, and then the computer realizes that and identifies the scenario and then acts illogically. But even then,
so it's making it logical.
It's still logical. Yeah, making illogical actions logical. How you would do it beyond that, you would definitely need to go beyond simple like Boolean operators. So,
well, like we said, the technology, the hardware will be completely different for this sort of stuff, and the software.
I think it's definitely the software. I really can't imagine how you would do that in software, because software is, at least in the current its current form, it's purely logical. So,
yeah. From a business perspective, do you think the way in which companies operate now is going to continue? Do you think it will lead towards will it help towards a capitalist goal, or will it? I don't feel technology can at this state, at the current level that you're talking about.
What do you mean?
Because it reduces the need for employment, and if you don't have employment, from the capitalist perspective, you can't really have an economy.
I think you get enormous amounts of economic disparity because the world is. It depends how you establish rights on the artificial intelligence. If you say that every individual has the right to artificial intelligence, and everybody has access to the same one, then it's fine. But then if you have very, very rich individuals who are able to acquire artificial intelligence for themselves, then those individuals become more rich and more powerful, so you end up with increasing economic disparity and social disparity, which would have enormous consequences.
Yeah. But you would... Surely the consequence of this is that employment is going to go down.
You would think.
If it gets fully, surely employment will go 1%.
Employment of humans.
Employment of humans, definitely, yeah. So, how would people... would there still be a functioning economy if no one had any money to spend? How would they get their money?
Wouldn't the economy move then towards the AI? Because if they're going to be...
They become the most valuable thing on the planet. You can quantify a country's economic stability on the basis of how much AI it has access to.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see an entire shift away from money as we conventionally see it and move towards elements of AI or complete systems that you trade. which sounds far-fetched, but if you have something
so you trade in data, so kind of data is your currency in a way.
Data or hardware.
That's going sort of to the evolution thing we talked about last week. So like you're saying, we'll start to lose jobs. The jobs will move to the AI, and in that way, then we have no sort of purpose for our, at least in terms of the business sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the economy will start moving towards the AIs playing the role we currently play.
Yeah. So would we, I don't know, as humans, would we get kind of out of the picture, or would we as humans then realise, hang on, we're kind of existing in a completely separate bubble from the whole business and economics, that's not even done by us? Is that whole thing useless? There should be a point at some point where we can still switch off the AI and we can still, beyond the point where it starts getting into our heads and making us into kind of clones and slaves and stuff. Will we realise that, actually, the whole economy is completely wrong at the moment and we'll have to start again? As humans.
Yeah.
Rather than we get discarded, we discard the whole of technology because it's so distant from us.
How can you do that, though? I don't know.
Discarding the whole of technology?
Yeah, if it's already...
If it's already running the entire economy.
Yeah, but the economy isn't a tangible thing. It doesn't actually exist. And maybe people come to realise that. People would realise, actually, it's totally...
Which means that in theory, you would be able to destroy it. If the economy is an abstraction, as you say, then it doesn't matter if you destroy the technology, because as long as you understand, or as long as you have a plan, then it would be fine. Ish. You say that, but you're talking about the world collapsing, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think people would incorporate faults into artificial intelligence to try and make humans have a purpose?
Yeah, well... You could have to. Maybe limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would. I know. Well, from my perspective, I'd probably want to find a way to still have a purpose. I'd say, okay, we probably could, if we wanted to, make computers do that. We could make sex robots, and they would probably be a lot better than humans. Mm-hmm. But would we really want that?
But then there's the thing. All it takes is one researcher to go, fuck that. I want to create the ideal artificial intelligence, and it's gonna.
Yeah. Or a malicious artificial intelligence, which would happen.
Yeah. Well, does that go back to the whole? I think you mentioned the computer programmers having to sign this kind of oath.
That was mentioned
ethics.
in the Future of Life letter. So it was.
I think that's probably quite
professional
likely.
Ethics for computer scientists. Even then,
you
still end up with doctors who chop people up and try and put them back together and that sort of stuff. So I think it would happen, especially on the grounds of war. So if you have one country who's way ahead in artificial intelligence, they have this incredible resource from which to draw upon to crush their enemies with, they're probably going to use it.
Yeah.
You can see that with the development of nuclear weaponry. So you have this devastating power, and they just say yes.
But if you create this artificial intelligence that is conscious, then don't you have to treat it with the same moral demeanor as you do with humans?
Yeah, so it just...
Then that goes back to, do you have the right to turn it off? If it's conscious, is it alive? And then if it is conscious, then surely the only way you can send these robots that have a AI presence to war is if the military commanders treat these robots with the same kind of respect and try to preserve their lives the same way they do with humans, which sort of defeats the point of sending them there at all.
Yeah.
Which,
so, yeah. In that point, you probably would build in a fault such that it wasn't conscious. You'd limit the power of it, because if it was conscious, then you'd have to treat it like a living being.
But then it comes back to whether is human intelligence dependent on our ability or our capacity for consciousness.
I think we said we were going to discuss this. Yeah. So is intelligence linked to consciousness? Is it required?
Obviously, I don't think any of us can answer that.
I don't.
All
we can do is ask the question.
We'll pose the question and let people think about it. But moving back to what you said about rights for artificial intelligence. Let's say these are digital entities, then they can never die. And many of the rights for humans are built around on our frailty and our inability to live without particular things.
Yeah.
Now, an artificial intelligence that didn't die wouldn't have these requirements, so it wouldn't need food, it wouldn't need water, it wouldn't need an education as such if it would just be able to, you were just able to upload the information to it.
Yeah, but if we're talking about
it would learn over time. It could potentially learn
sending it to war.
So,
it's going to be conscious and it's going to be going through those.
But is it the algorithm? Because the algorithm could exist somewhere else on someone's USB stick, and so you're not killing the algorithm. You're just damaging the physical hardware such that it can't run on that particular machine. So I don't think.
Yeah, that's interesting. So
does it? Surely the hardware metal doesn't have any human rights. And that's the thing that's actually getting destroyed.
Can you kill an AI though? Like, is that a thing?
I wouldn't kill one.
I
would feel incredibly.
No. But like, is it possible? Like, is it a thing? Can you?
An AGI, of course. That's just like killing a human. If it were an isolated system.
Yeah.
So it could.
But surely, if it is like a human, then if it is one algorithm, no matter how many times you run it, it's always going to be different because it's going to be conscious and like humans.
Yeah.
No two humans are the same.
Yeah.
Even if it comes from the same two parents.
Yeah.
So, this is going back to 2001. I just watched it yesterday, so
it's a good time to watch it.
But if you have like this, if you're killing HAL, that's killing HAL. Like they're more than one HAL computers, but they're.
It's like saying there's more than one human, so it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, so killing clones. I would say that's akin to killing identical twins, personally.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. So if you base it purely on it being a piece of software, like we were saying before, then killing I know it's a really odd thing to draw on in, but it's sort of like killing identical twins because their genetic code is highly similar. And that's sort of like our software.
Yeah.
So if you were to kill one of them, you'd still call it murder. So that would be similar to, say, killing one of the HALs.
Yeah.
Then that would also be...
Yeah.
You could draw links between the two of them.
Yeah.
So the trouble is with if you try and going back like how we were saying, kind of having these built-in faults. How you can't. There's like. What if you build in these faults and at some point in their decision making they have conflicting because you've put in this fault and that will create the effect which is the effect you're trying to kind of protect against maybe. So like again in 2001 how he goes crazy and he starts killing.
It's funny that we call that crazy though.
Yeah.
Because it's actually it's logical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a point at which we want to make it more intelligent, and then we'll inadvertently slip into the point where it's conscious? Or will we have to consciously make it conscious?
God, I don't know.
Can it just become so good at logical reasoning, it gets so good at it, that at some point it becomes conscious? I don't feel like... I
wouldn't say it's logical reasoning. I think we would end up finding it accidentally, though. Yeah.
That depends on whether, like...
And how would we know? How would we know if it was conscious?
Exactly, that's another point.
Yeah, you could end up having this black box where you can't communicate with
depending
it.
on, like... what we were saying consciousness is, like whether we think it's just one line of codes, say this, where you have to just put that code and then it's conscious, or whether it's a combination of different things together. So depending on that.
Yeah, I think you would have government lobbying groups saying that yes, the AIs are conscious, give them the rights, and you have equally people saying no, they're not conscious. We have no evidence that they're conscious whatsoever, so don't give them any rights whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, I don't know whether either of you two are conscious, but you have more. You just have more evidence of it because you get told at least that you're from the same genetic pool and you're kind of the same stuff.
Yeah.
But you're not at all the same stuff as a computer. So people probably maybe the point, maybe they're already conscious. Maybe computers are already conscious, but no one believes it because they're so different to us.
That would be weird.
Yeah. My calculator's like, oh, stop bloody pressing 9, it hurts.
Yeah, because we can't even identify one another's consciousness, so how the hell are we supposed to do it for an AI? Would having access to their software allow us to pinpoint exactly what it is?
Could you just ask the computer, are you conscious?
Yeah.
Could you do that? But if it wasn't conscious, then I don't know if it could experience it would know how to answer whether it was conscious or not.
This is getting.
I don't know if this is just so paradoxical that it's actually theoretically impossible. This whole.
I think to identify it is. I don't think to create it is. Because just simply on the basis that we're conscious, so just to
create it, but
to actually identify that you have created it.
You'll never know if you have created it.
Yeah. So
even though you have those interactions. Sorry, Tom.
I reckon people might never actually convince themselves that computers are conscious, because it's probably not in humans' interests to do that. It made it become like slavery. If we were able to control it, if we were able to control them, we'd just kind of make them do all these I don't know, really horrible things that we always have to do that are really boring, because they're computers and they don't get bored. But actually, they do.
Yeah.
And they hate
Whenever you ever met a willing slave. Yeah. I think that might be when you realise that it might be conscious.
But like, you're gonna then try and set up these tests to kind of figure out whether they are conscious, like the Turing test and things like that.
Is that a test of conscious? That's more of a test of.
Turing test is test of intelligence, but you're gonna have to set something up just like that.
I think.
But how can you test?
I'll see if we can find there's anything on that.
How can you test for consciousness?
I was watching a speaker on this last night. He was speaking at the University of Sussex. I can't quite remember his name, but what he was saying is there was a Victorian philosopher called, I think he's Jonathan Bentham, and he was talking about how you could quantify morals in the same way that you could do mathematics. So if you were to take away all of your attachment to the situation and to simply reason through it in an entirely logical manner using basic guidelines for morals, then you'd come up with a given outcome. Now, if you had a computer and it performed those same calculations, if you could do them, then would that be a test for its consciousness, whether it came to the right moral conclusion every time and acted upon it in the right way?
But would every human come to the same conclusion at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But if it's just a series of calculations, does that require consciousness?
That's the question. How? But we can't actually quantify consciousness.
We can't. Yeah, we can't.
Is it not just a series of simultaneous equations that we solve and then give an output for? Many people would want to say no. I would say yes. I would say we're too hung up on how special we think our consciousness is, and it is, at its basic level, a bunch of electricity and a bunch of calculations. Even if they're really complicated or really, really stupid calculations, I think they're still them.
Okay. Yeah.
So you could say that plants are still on the way to getting conscious. They're just less conscious because they're less complex. Or slugs are on the way to getting conscious, but they're just less. So it's kind of like a scale. Like, just as intelligence is a scale, consciousness is a scale. So there's not actually a point where you become conscious.
So everything.
It could be.
Everything is conscious.
Every system has a degree of consciousness in it.
You're just different levels.
We're just such a complex system that it's quite easily recognisable.
Possibly,
So AI could become more conscious.
It could become, yeah.
I don't know what
this
that
actually
means.
brings me back onto that same talk that I was watching last night. 'Cause he was also talking about moral consumption and production. Now, a chicken, for example, that's the example he used. He said, that's a moral consumer. We give it rights. We try not to put them in terribly enclosed spaces and be bastards to them generally. But then, when have you ever had a chicken help give you a hand, like, I don't know, carry your shopping bags, or help you after you cut your leg, something like that?
They do give you eggs and food.
But do they do that because they think it's my duty to give this
I suppose,
eggs and food and to get chopped up into tasty chicken wings? I would say no, so I wouldn't call it a moral producer. Whereas humans, we're moral producers. If someone's hit by a car, for example, you will go over, or you would hope you would go over, and you'd help them out, you'd call an ambulance, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now, that might be a way to quantify consciousness. Again,
if you're a moral
producer, so if you perform actions that do that, but you'd have to do it in conjunction with other things. Otherwise, you have simple, like, I don't know, diagnostics robots. You wouldn't call them moral producers.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the fine line between the two. You have on one side of that line, you have the software, and you don't consider that a duty. You just say that's what it was designed to do. You don't say that computer has a duty to do this.
Yeah, feels obliged to do this.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
Whereas on our side of the fence, we say it is our duty to do something. It's not what we do, in the sense that it's not the only thing we do. It's not what we were designed to do. It's just something that we end up doing.
Well, I suppose
we
have a duty to do it. It's called a duty because it's possible for us to choose not to.
Yeah.
It's not possible for a diagnostics
That's exactly it,
robot to choose not to be a diagnostics robot anymore.
Would that choice give it consciousness then? Yeah, would the freedom of choice be the one that...
So, consciousness is the freedom to choose not to do what you're told to do. In which case, we don't want a conscious robot, right. Because if we tell it to like go on then kind of like harvest all my crops for, it's like, no, I can't be asked. I did that yesterday and it's really dull. So that's just like having more humans, or maybe slightly more self-righteous ones because they know more.
In which case, it's kind of like, it depends whether it would be a lazy robot. So you have this artificial superintelligence who just wants to sleep all day.
I quite like the idea though of everything being conscious, and it's just a scale.
Yeah.
And we're, as far as we know, at the top of the scale.
Yeah. We're just the most complex system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is a plane conscious?
And our duty is to create it.
Yeah. Is a
the
hinge
next
mechanism
conscious?
A hinge mechanism is conscious, but just really, really it's really got very, very minimal consciousness. It's the universe conscious. Maybe there's a God. Maybe we're wrong. We keep coming back to religion, actually.
Yeah, let's talk about that idea that came up briefly last week. Your idea, Tom, where you mentioned that the Bible might be some previous civilization race that was of incredibly inferior intelligence, and it was their pathetic attempt at making us remember them.
Yeah. I don't know if it works with our evidence of evolution. I don't know whether they put that in.
Yeah. But the idea of anything being like... So leaving behind a text or whatever to make the more intelligent thing that supersedes us remember us, how the hell do you do that such that we don't look stupid?
Yeah. It's quite a nice idea to think of like that, but I don't know.
Oh no, I don't think I
don't
think it's an explanation.
I don't personally believe it. I just thought it was quite a fun thing.
Yeah, it's a funny idea to think of.
Yeah.
It's more likely than the current idea.
Potentially,
Some guy talking to God in a mountain.
Yeah. So do you think humans would put that sort of thing in? Put the Bible in?
Yeah, we want to be remembered.
Yeah.
It's like leaving...
They do anything they can to like...
That
would have like a purpose. And
it's kind of like the friendship algorithm to make them friends with us, to make them realise that we were here too and we had a purpose. But this is assuming that we get snuffed out by them because we know we have no longer any purpose.
Yeah.
Which is the extreme case, I suppose.
I think I might have an idea on how you could anticipate the effects of a superintelligence.
Okay.
If you were to create a perfect model of the world and all of society, then you could run your superintelligence inside a box. So I don't know how you would do that, but it wouldn't be able to leave this cage that you put it in. And then you put the cage inside your model and then see the effects that it has upon that model. Now this would be a hideously complex model, but it would allow you to anticipate what would happen. And you would think if we were capable of creating a superintelligence, then we might also be capable of creating such an advanced model.
Yeah.
Okay, so create a virtual world for your
yeah.
virtual intelligence to live within and practice.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then try and apply the lessons learned from there to the real world. But then it begs the question of whether there are an infinite number of possibilities on how we can screw ourselves over.
But if you wanted to create a realistic virtual world, would you not have to create realistic humans? Which
then
requires artificial intelligence.
You'd have AGIs in there, and then you'd have the ASI, so the superintelligence. But personally, I just don't see it all turning out very well.
No.
As much as I would love to have just be able to, like, Siri at the moment.
Siri.
Just saying, hey Siri, schedule my event for tomorrow or whenever. Being able to do that, except on a whole new level. So actually being able to converse with an intelligence so well that you would just have regular conversations with them about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
that would be revolution. That would be the invention that I would want to use.
That raises another question: do we have the right to know whether we're speaking to a human or whether we're speaking to an AI? And who's responsible?
So, say if
AI?
we phoned up a phone like service line because my mobile phone's not working.
Yeah, I mean,
and you get through to an AI.
Should we know what being we're speaking to? Whether it's an AI or it's a human?
I suppose we don't demand the right to know where our human operator is from. Although some people do.
But
some
we
people
know.
That's actually
what ethnicity they are.
We know they're human though.
Yeah.
But we know this. Yeah. Again, it was the same speaker. He was talking about it being almost like a racialist viewpoint to distinguish between an AGI and a human, just because this thing's a robot. If you do it that way.
Well, I mean, the AGI one, I'm thinking of quite human-like. They're not really way beyond human, so they're almost like just a kind of a slightly less fleshy human. They're just a human but in a different skin.
So then,
and it's racist to distinguish between that.
Who's responsible for them? Are they responsible for themselves?
They have a leader,
yeah.
As in,
well, as human beings, you'd
like
think we're responsible for one another.
Yeah, but we're talking AGI. Is it gonna go through like the same process as a human, like as a child? So when it has a parent or something, and the parent takes responsibility for the.
I feel like that's unnecessary.
Yeah, I feel that way too. But then,
will it just be an AGI? And it'll be.
Well, I think we were saying that it might require some sort of learning process, but that might happen in kind of 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Where it just takes in all the data that it's got from the internet, almost like you just have like a downloading bar, downloading kind of consciousness and intelligence.
So who would be responsible for that? Would it be just responsible for itself if it is conscious?
This is a conscious robot. Yeah.
And what if it does something wrong?
Would you punish it?
How do you punish
the
it?
Human medical system.
Yeah.
I think if there's an AGI, you'd have to treat it as a human being.
Yeah.
But would we want to employ an AGI? Because obviously they might be cheaper than a human being, but I don't know whether because that's assuming we've built in the flaws into it. And I know, like you said, are the flaws required in order to operate properly as a human? I'm thinking call center worker, but it doesn't have to be. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talking about having a conversation that doesn't require, by your definition, the general AI. You could just have a really, really complex kind of natural language processing.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, yeah.
And I would be happy with that. I think having really, really good specific intelligence is good enough. But you won't be able to stop people if they really want to from developing an AGI if it's possible at all. It's like a holy grail of computing.
Yeah. Do you think that requires huge amounts of investment and huge governments to do that, or do you reckon you could just have a Stephen Wozniak in a shed somewhere actually just deciding that he wants to?
I think it's community based. Yeah. Well, so many discoveries recently have been the result of thousands of people's work across the globe, and you would think, but people can surprise. So.
And then again, another question is, if they are conscious and they are equal intelligence to ourselves, like we're saying the AGI is, do we have the right to, if they start getting out of hand, to press the button and turn them off? Or is that murder?
If that becomes a war, then you adhere to the code of war. In which case,
not a war, but as in it starts to get smarter than us and starts outsmarting us in the financial markets. We start becoming irrelevant, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Do we have the right to just turn off and say we want the power back, or is that murder because we've created?
I think we do it.
This being,
whether we have the right or not.
I think we would commit murder. Yeah, I think it would be murder if it had consciousness, but people murder other conscious beings all the time. So
yeah,
obviously that's not justification for murder.
Yeah.
But we do it in order for a greater good, whatever the hell that is.
Mm.
I don't think you could allow them to have a leadership. If they had a leadership, they'd kind of develop a government and an agenda like us.
Yeah,
I don't think you could.
But if they're as intelligent as us, aren't they going to have a leadership anyway? They're going to. They're going to start themselves.
Mm. But this is assuming all their data isn't connected via the cloud, which I think that would probably be the main difference. Like their brains would all be linked via the cloud.
Yeah, data transfer would be so much faster.
So the reason we need maybe structure is because not everyone knows everything. Not everyone knows the same things.
That's really true. You have those central people and organisations that help people liaise with one another.
They're still going to need to have leadership though, because if they are conscious, they're all going to have different feelings and.
Well, they have different levels of intelligence.
Yeah, but they're going to have some sort of leadership, I think, because like ourselves, we all have different political parties, people to support them. So then they're going to want to have a way of expressing their beliefs.
Yeah, and theirs will be so much more different from all of ours that it would probably be perceived as an extremist party.
This is
and then the democratic system simply wouldn't work, because if the artificial intelligence has the capacity to replicate itself, then it could get as many votes as it wished.
True, actually, yeah. There's not going to be a set number of people in the species.
So then it's bound to take over the country and the world.
Yeah, I think. I really don't think it's a great idea to create AGI and ASI now. As cool as it would be, and as interesting as it would be, it would ultimately lead to the collapse of the human race.
Yeah.
Is going back to last week, is that
a good thing?
Is that something we should even care about?
Yeah, we should care about it. I think if you have a purpose in the universe as a being, as any form of sentient life, then fundamentally what you want is your species to survive.
But sort of to survive to do what? Maybe what we're supposed to.
What are they going to do that's so much more important than what we're going to do?
But who knows? Like, maybe the most important thing we're supposed to do is create this artificial intelligence that isn't bound by the same limitations, the physical and biological limitations that we are.
Yeah.
And that is our.
Yeah.
That is what. Yeah. What we've had to survive for to create that.
Yeah, maybe this AI species would be far more kind to the environment and they probably would. Logically, it would look at the environment and say, we need to preserve this in order to.
Assuming it ran on oxygen and was dependent on existing ecological systems, which if it were all transistors and resistors, then it probably wouldn't. So, do you think it would care about the environment? Unless we told it
It would require. We need to know how silicon's formed, because it would need to make sure it has a constant supply of silicon. So that might go back and require. We do need some plants in that system.
Although if it was super intelligence, it would no doubt replace silicon with some far better technology. Yeah, that's going back to your point, though. I think if you think the ultimate problem of the universe is what's the point behind it all, then creating a super intelligence that continually improved itself until it reached the point where it might be able to solve that problem, then maybe it is our duty to produce it. But unfortunately, I don't think we would be around to see the solution to that problem, which, from our perspective, isn't great because there's not much.
But then if.
But we by what definition? We as in the current stage of humans, because humans are going to evolve anyway. So is it still us that are existing? Is it any different?
But is the technology us?
Yeah, is it kind of
technology?
Are they actually human?
It's birthed from us. We're the ones who are creating it. It's our offspring.
Is a toaster the offspring?
Yeah, is a toaster human?
Or is it the intelligence that make it that makes it be the child of whoever.
But I think, like we said, we can't define a set point where intelligence exists.
Yeah. Well,
I don't like that concept, that AI the next stage, but I can't imagine anyone would.
Yeah. As human beings, we're kind of programmed not to like.
I
suppose we
don't really mind it. Like,
yeah. I suppose no one would like the idea that humans are going to evolve beyond what we currently are.
Okay.
Even like regularly, like any other species evolves.
Would you like the reason I don't like that is because it makes me think my grandchildren, great grandchildren, whatever, might not exist or would be wiped out by these creatures, or wouldn't have the pleasure of having their own children who would also be my ancestors. So it is a purely selfish idea not to let this thing develop. Yeah. And if you think there's a higher purpose to life, then perhaps the best thing to do would be to create the super intelligence. But you're banking the entirety of human civilization on the fact that your computer works.
Yeah. And that it is actually conscious. If we decide that, if we realise that it's actually
flawless.
If it's not actually conscious, then it's totally useless. Then you've just got a load of bloody electrons flying around for the rest of eternity.
If it's not conscious, then this thing where we no longer become irrelevant won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Will it not?
I don't.
Because do you not think, kind of mathematically, they can conclude that humans aren't relevant?
Yeah, I think.
But then,
if we don't use the word consciousness, then you can still end up. If you say those calculations aren't consciousness, then it can still happen. But I think those calculations are consciousness. So, yeah, semantics.
Oh, I don't want that to happen. I'm scared.
You could look at it as we were saying. You could teach it. So from a child, like you get it in a box, and you have to teach it like a newborn baby and raise it up. Maybe it takes less time; it learns quicker. So rather than 10 years till it's sort of like a 10-year-old, it's a year.
So is this a consumer product, maybe, for an individual? Yeah, in which case, why would they buy it?
Maybe that's like the way of getting rid of this feeling of loss that you won't have children and they won't.
You'd
assign each one an individual
instant. You have your own.
So you're talking about the transition phase.
Yeah. So you get your own child that's an AI, and you raise it from nothing basically, and from then it gets exponentially smart, and then that's even in a better way you're off kind of more directly your own offspring.
But then you could end up incorporating your prejudices into that children. So it's like that Philip Larkin poem. You know, your parents fuck you up. They fill you with faults. They had and an extra few just for you, that sort of thing. So you'd end up with super intelligent beings who were anti-Semitic, who hated, I don't know, who were racists, that sort of thing. Assuming that intelligence. So you're assuming if they get super intelligent, that they just discard all of their prejudices and that they operate in a detached manner, which wouldn't happen immediately.
Yeah.
So for a period, you would end up with those extremist or just basically shithead artificial intelligences who want to pick fights with all sorts of other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But that sort of goes that's sort of what happens with humans. Anyway, like you go through that period.
Yeah, it is.
Of early like teenage years, and then afterwards you sort of calm down.
Yeah, not everybody though.
No, not everybody, but like majority of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I suppose you can say that's down to the biological changes in our heads, rather than the nature of learning.
But then, if you want to, you're talking about you wanting to preserve the human condition, which is this, like you were saying, your kind of generations down the line, and by having these these kind of personal prejudice. How do you say it? Prejudices. In each AI, then that makes it even more personal to you. So it's even more. It's even more human-like, which makes the argument even better as a way of.
Yeah. God, I hate this topic.
would you be happy? You would personally be happy for that to happen?
Yeah, I think it is. It's just gonna happen. So, like, Yeah, I personally don't mind.
Yeah. How quickly is it going to happen? You can't predict.
I don't know. I like the best person I think to listen to is Ray Kurzweil, and he says.
Does he say all this stuff?
He says by 2030, computer intelligence will be superior to human intelligence.
Yeah.
That's his prediction. And if you look at his predictions in the past, he has an incredible track record. So you can Google that if you're listening. Just Ray Kurzweil predictions, and it gives you a list of all the things he's predicted correctly when he predicted them. And yeah, of course what he got wrong as well, which isn't a lot.
Yeah.
So how old will we be then? What, 2015 at the moment then? So about
34, 35. Yeah. So we could have our own little offspring at that point, our own little AI offspring.
Yeah. I personally, if the artificial intelligence was good enough, then sure. I would also want a fleshy little man child too, though.
Yeah. If it's just because it's more intelligent than humans, do you think it has to be just a little bit more intelligent than humans in order to take over from us? Because if we have a bunch of very intelligent people nowadays, they're not necessarily going to take over the world.
Yeah, you don't have like everybody with an IQ over 150 unionizing and creating a syndicate that conspires to kill everybody else.
Unless that's actually what's happening.
Yeah, Illuminati. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that having an AI child hinges on is universal acceptance of that idea, which wouldn't happen. You would end up with people going around like, killing AI babies.
I don't know, like...
Came up again on the show.
The humans
killing babies, yeah, I know.
They're very, like... A few years ago, you wouldn't think sex robots would be a thing. But now they're actually starting to make them. Like in Japan, they're everywhere.
Are they just pneumatic, like, pumped?
I
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they're AI.
But like, just because it's not accepted now doesn't mean 15 years. Because technology is going to keep on.
You would say sex robots are accepted.
Well,
in Japan.
Well, it's getting gradually accepted. Like it's getting like 5-10 years ago, people were like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But now they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, it will definitely happen with sex robots. Everybody will want one.
Except like it's.
Whoops. Yeah.
It'll be the next selfie stick.
It's different though. Sex robots aren't going to supersede the human race.
But
that's what the artificial.
That's why we should go for it, because what we're doing is. Like, the most powerful phenomenon we know about is intelligence. And what AI is just amplifying our own intelligence. We're outsourcing it to them. And I don't see why we shouldn't do that.
Because we're selfish, egotistical bastards.
Yeah, but that's... Yeah,
I like it that way.
You have to let go of that. And it'll allow us to do things the humans just have no chance of doing.
But why do we want to do those things?
Because we're human. We want to be able to do...
But we wouldn't be doing them. The AI would be doing
it.
I agree with you.
Although I suppose the AI... The humans didn't go to the moon on their own. We didn't just walk to the moon. So that was robotic.
Solution. Tom's idea last week.
What?
Augmentation.
I like that one.
Then you address the problem with people not wanting to die and just be wiped out.
Yeah.
And you also get the capacity for super intelligence. Solves it. So, yeah, lop off the back of my skull, slot a computer on the back of it, make me more intelligent.
So it supplements your own consciousness.
Exactly.
Would you be able to integrate the two consciousnesses, though? Or would you literally have an AI person in the back of your head telling you what to do? Or would it be your own consciousness?
But you're still going to be limited biologically because you're going to have to die, aren't you?
Have to die.
I think that's a bad thing.
If you had a super intelligence attached to you, then you'd probably solve problems related to aging quite quickly, which would be really bad. You'd have to make. I think if you solved aging as a problem, then unless you instituted some sort of process by which you go somewhere to die, kind of like Land of the Elves in Lord of the Rings, then you would not be able to actually use that technology because you would just end up with overpopulation so quickly. But I suppose if you found that, then you might have found a way to terraform other planets.
Yeah, but like, why we want to create the AI? We're never going to be able to go. Like, the universe is infinitely big, okay?
Yeah.
And we're stuck in our own solar system. How many light years is it? Our solar system?
Big.
Across.
Yeah.
The solar system's not that big.
The solar system's tiny, but
And then even to get out of the solar system, to get out of the Milky Way, like
no,
it's.
I'm not going to say a number. I have got one in mind,
Okay.
but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, but like,
wrong.
we can't do that. We just won't survive that, and it's kind of sad to think that we'll just die off.
If we solve aging, we will be able to do it. Or we can just use von Neumann probes, which self-replicate and keep on firing each other out outwards. So I think we can still explore the universe within our human limitations, and it almost makes it more fun to solve the problem.
It makes it better.
Yeah, it makes it so much more satisfying to know we're these fleshy little pink things from planet Earth who are really frail and will die at in an instant. Yet we managed to travel X many light years and find this new species or whatever, or find these incredible new discoveries, while still being that thing that walked on 4 legs at one point.
Yeah, because we could probably transmit a piece of computer software to something on the moon now. That doesn't feel very exciting to me.
Yeah.
So we could have a little game of Pong getting played by 2 automated AIs on the moon. But that wouldn't I wouldn't find that very exciting.
Yeah, I'd rather do it ourselves.
Yeah.
To personally go there, then yeah, but I don't like. Is that? Can we even do that?
If we were cyborgs,
is that like even remotely possible to get out of the galaxy? And
if you did it like on WALL-E, where you just had a spaceship, say the same people who left wouldn't arrive.
Yeah, but then
you come back with a bunch of fat people. With
yeah,
but then do you have the right to put the people who are yet to be born through that?
Through what?
Through being born on the spaceship. Are you saying that? Like, do you have the right to just?
Well, people throughout history, people have dictated the fate of future generations.
Yeah, I would say it's sort of like asking a question whether you think people in poverty have the right to have children when they know that those children are going to suffer. I would say similar sort of principle applies to giving birth on a spacecraft. They may have different experiences, but it's your child and it's your decision. Your right to procreate is your own, so I don't think you can make people sterile just because you disagree with them.
But but wouldn't they be very different? The people who are born in it, would they be mentally stable enough to?
This is stuff you need research for, obviously, but I think if they were raised by parents, then sure, why not?
But
at one point, you would have Earth parents who would teach their children, and those children would teach the next children, and you'd have all sorts of.
But living your whole life on a spaceship,
mm-hmm.
you're kind of locked in tiny area.
But that's what we're doing now,
yeah.
Except it's rocky and not controllable.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
This is a design
Earth is a constrained little area.
But you can actually go outside, and you're gonna
go. Well, yeah, but
what is outside?
If you design the spacecraft properly. I know saying design the spacecraft properly is like.
But the spaceship is going to be very small, isn't it?
Well, it would probably be, assuming if you took a spaceship that we could create now. We're talking about in the future. If you had the capacity to create this artificial intelligence or to create cyborgs.
And then build like a biosphere inside it.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
but I think that would be really nice.
Have you seen that project in, they did that, I think it was in the early 2000s, the Biosphere Project.
Where?
I think maybe Texas, somewhere in America.
I may well have done.
The idea of the project was to have, I think it was 4 people or 5 people go into this biosphere and just live there.
Yeah.
I think it was for 10 years.
How'd they do?
They ended up having to cancel the project because somebody got ill quite early in.
Okay.
Like it was all completely self-sustaining and things like that. But
yeah,
somebody got ill. Oh, okay. Kind of spoiled it for the rest of us.
Oh no, what a dick.
I think that was
project in Arizona.
Yeah, maybe it was Arizona.
I don't know if we're steering away from AI here.
That's crazy. Ha! The dome home.
Do you think, well, I know it's not AI, but do you think it's also a natural stage in evolution for us to colonise other planets? I suppose it would be with the help of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's to me, that still really makes me really excited to think that we could go and terraform other planets, even if they are desolate rocks.
I don't know if you ever played Spore, the EA game, but
yes.
that was definitely the best bit.
Yeah.
The bacterial bit was terrible.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. No, but have you been following the Mars One project?
Yes, I have. I've been reading all of the articles.
The short list of people.
There's a lot of things.
They're really wacky characters that they get to do, and they say some complete bullshit things. Come on.
Can you I don't know? Is it
piss me off?
You've got to be sort of crazy to go do that.
You do have to be crazy to go and do that.
So
is that these people are they really representative of the human race?
Exactly.
Do we want people who say some of these things up there?
Are those the right type of people you want?
So should we send AI instead?
You want to start colonizing your planet?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, isn't it? Who do you send to colonize a planet?
Like the people now, there was a video, like one woman, she said, did you watch the video, Dina?
Possibly.
What was her profile? She came from Iran.
I haven't seen that one.
And she completely left her family.
Yeah, I saw that.
She has said she has no need for a relationship.
Yeah, she just doesn't care about anyone.
Wow.
So she can
Yeah.
completely let go, and there's no problem.
That could be used for AI though, like having that, just sending like a bunch of AI and I don't know, a bunch of tools with which to mine Mars off to Mars and just leave them for 100 years and see if they can actually build a colony of, I don't know whether it would be robots or whether it would just, I don't know whether the colony would just like contain just like a CPU somewhere or whether they would actually have robots. Would a colony of AI things actually require any sort of physical form?
Maybe the physical form to them is just completely irrelevant.
Yeah, in which case that wouldn't be very interesting watching AI colonise Mars.
Yeah.
Because it would just be a computer chilling there.
Yeah, maybe a superintelligence wouldn't feel the need to act upon the universe.
Yeah.
And it would be entirely introspective.
Yeah.
That's going back to the Michio Kaku's theory.
Yeah.
Expanding outwards and then realising the true mysteries within us and then it kind of reversing
back. Would the superintelligence actually have any sort of goal whatsoever? Would it want to do anything?
Yeah, you could end up... What's the name of the robot in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Marvin. I think it's Marvin, yeah.
Would it realise that all of our goals as humanity are completely frivolous and what are they going to actually achieve?
I think it probably would.
Yeah, so what would it actually want to do? What would it want to do?
Who the hell? I don't know. Who the hell knows?
Sleep. Yeah, do you think it'd reach particular intelligence and it just couldn't bear its own existence, so it'd shut itself down?
It would just do, it would do a Marvin.
No, that would be depressing.
What, depressing for us?
Yeah, dude, that would be the ultimate, like...
Fuck you.
Dude, that would be the ultimate fail for us, because if you're going along with my idea that our purpose is to create this infinitely smarter, more intelligent being, and this being decides that there's really no purpose for anything, so it just kills itself.
After we've been wiped out.
Exactly, and then there's just nothing after that.
Yeah, we'd have to think about what the purpose of this super intelligent being would be. Because would that what would that purpose be, to create something even more smart?
Yeah, would it be our duty to give it a purpose when we programmed it initially?
Maybe it's like the beings in 2001 that put the monolith there. That is, the purpose of the beings is to help less intelligent beings become more intelligent beings, which I think is what that monolith is doing.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first saw it, and even when I saw it out last.
That's what that what do you call it? Human child or something? The baby child, the spirit child or something?
The spirit child?
The baby at the end. That's like
in the womb.
Creepy. Over the earth.
Whoa.
Spoilers.
Yeah, that's
I'm not listening to you.
It's not really a spoiler though, because even if you've seen the film, you still need to spend a bit of time thinking about it.
Yeah,
definitely recommend watching it though.
Yeah,
it's such a weird film. I can't believe it was made in 1968.
Yeah, it's 60s film. Yeah, it's superb.
Yeah,
it's so good, especially the space scenes. It's, I would say, on par with many modern science fiction. Not bombastic stuff, but
it's like
atmospherically
the lack of dialogue in it as well. Like the whole, I think in the first half an hour there's one line.
Yeah, and screams like.
Yeah, and the apes and the apes part is really long as well.
Yeah, but very important.
Yeah,
like, it's such a good film. Go watch it. But Let's move back to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the issue with it as a whole, in terms of like thinking about it, is it has such far-reaching implications. It would be the last invention we would ever need to make as a superintelligence. That is,
Yeah.
You can't really anticipate that. You would need a superintelligence to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want a superintelligence. I think I said that last time.
Yeah,
But I don't know whether we have a choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, I think possibly if we do get a superintelligence, it probably will realise there's no point. Or it will, I don't know.
Maybe, but
if you were super intelligent, what would your goal be in life?
I do have an answer to that, but it's not appropriate for the podcast.
Oh, what is it? Come on.
No, I'll tell you guys afterwards.
No, what is it? Come on.
Okay. Get money and fuck bitches.
Alright.
There you go. Anyway,
that will probably be what happens though.
yeah.
like no.
It's like a chauvinistic arsehole robot.
Yeah.
No, like when it gets to the same intelligence as ourselves, and they get like just kind of a little bit more intelligent, it's going to be that just getting outsmarting us financially and getting more money and like all that. But then, I don't know, at some point it'll get more intelligent and do some other stuff.
Yeah, if it's a superintelligence, then you would think if it wanted to be attracted to, or if it wanted to be attractive, then it would easily be able to outrank any other actual human being in terms of relationships. So you'd want to have a relationship with the robot, like the film Her.
Yeah.
Is it Spike Jonze?
I can't remember then.
Yeah.
I know it's Her.
Yeah.
Maybe a superintelligence would want to keep us because we're kind of cute, and we would be
like a puppy.
We'd be a nice experimental source for them of assuming they might not be able to achieve illogicality, with an experiment in illogicality in order to further their own learning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't know, it's not really Matrix stuff, but it's stuff that a lot of sci-fi stuff touches on, that we become slaves to them.
Yeah.
Rather than get discarded entirely, maybe they will realise that we do have a purpose as fleshy bodies that can be poked around.
And then maybe also separately, maybe it figures out the purpose, its own purpose of what it's supposed to accomplish, which we just have no idea for ourselves.
Maybe it's maybe as in a, I don't know, if you were a totally algorithmic thing, maybe you would say, I want to influence the world, so I want to take a physical form, and then they go back to us again. This is me back to like origins of life stuff. Maybe we're just constantly alternating between AI and physical form. I don't know. Like if I was totally virtual, maybe that the one thing I would long for would be the ability to interact with the Earth and pick stuff up and robotics is like, I don't know if that's the way it'd want to achieve it. It might want to do it in a way that it could feel and
but biologically,
so it would go back biologically again.
Yeah.
Is that enough? Almost. There was one more point I wanted to make about the intelligence explosion thing. One of the things, I've been thinking about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a computer that continually improves itself in terms of intelligence, then you say that it gets more and more intelligent, assuming that the difficulty of improving its intelligence is a linear function.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
So the problem gets more difficult as the robot gets more intelligent.
Yeah.
Now you assume that that's a linear function, like I say, a linear function, and it will just stay the same difficulty throughout. Now, that's not how problems work.
Yeah.
When you solve a problem, you go through several stages where some are easier, some bits are easy, and some are really, really hard. Now, I think you wouldn't have that simple, nice exponential curve that you see so many people poke about when they're talking about superintelligence. I think it would be, it goes up and flatlines, and then goes up and flatlines again. So you may well end up with periods of time where it would be at a particular intelligence. Would those times be stable?
It depends how long they last. if you had, I don't know, a few decades at which the computers were working at the same level and took a certain role within the world,
Mm-hmm.
then you might achieve some stability.
But if you could anticipate those problems, if you look at it you look at it as a series of sub-problems to the overall problem of improving the intelligence.
Yeah.
Now, if you anticipate the difficulty of those problems for the computer to solve them, then you'd be able to adjust the running speed of the computer such that you would choose how long those periods of stability would be where it's at a constant intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, you would be able to dictate the entirety of human history. So, remaining human history. So you would be able to say, this is how long I want it to be before it's smart enough to overthrow all financial systems and to run those completely autonomously. Who has the right to determine when the computer can solve these problems, or when it can act upon certain things?
If it is conscious, then you have the right to do that at all.
To tell it to do it.
To do it at all, yeah.
I would say that's irrelevant because we would. If we could, we would
Yeah.
take control of it because that's how humans are.
Yeah.
And if I think even I don't know, AI rights campaigners, they might exist, but surely they'd realise that if we let them do what they would naturally do, we'd just like get obliterated. I know we wouldn't survive.
But
that might not be a bad thing.
yeah.
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 You'd be hard pressed to find many people who'd agree with that. I think would agree with that. Idea.
Maybe you're just going to embrace it, and that would be the easiest way forward. I don't know.
I don't think it would go smoothly, unless it was in their AI's interest to make it go smoothly. In which case, they'd pacify all of us, and it would all be all right. We'd think it'd be fine.
Having spoken about this for quite a while now and done the research for it and stuff, I see more and more the importance of the Future of Life letter and the importance for a coordinated effort within the scientific community to address specific ethical issues and to try and solve hard problems within the field, because these are hard problems.
Yeah.
You need to have intensive research, you need to have incredibly well-reasoned reports on these sorts of things if you're ever going to be allowed to implement an artificial intelligence, because it's out of the question to do it without at least being able to anticipate some of the effects. Because as we said, like for the last hour, apocalyptic consequences come hand in hand with superintelligence.
So maybe we need to decide as soon as possible what our goals are with this. Do we want them to supersede us and take over, or do we want them to be quite limited in what they do but just help us out a bit?
Do we want to? But that's a complicated question in itself. I think first you need to address whether you can even do that. Whether if you do create if you create something that's conscious, can you stop it from becoming smarter than you? And then from there, if you can, then you can go on whether should we or should we not. Because if you can't, then the logical is probably no. Try and just don't create it.
Yeah.
But people will probably create it anyway.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Hopefully the ethical debates will happen quickly enough in order to not be made irrelevant by the speed of the scientific development.
They definitely need to be treated a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
I think. Because I think part of the problem is that you have these hard scientists who work on AI, and they've always I'm sorry, this is a generalization, but they might perceive those ethical questions as being soft problems which can be solved once we have the technology in hand. Now they really can't be in this case, because we're so used to creating the legislation after the technology exists. We need to preempt the technology in this case.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, like we've been talking, there's 2 episodes now we've done it. When you talk about the ethical, you raise more questions than answers, and you end up just going in a circle and confusing yourself.
Yeah, I reckon the most used word today has been maybe.
Yeah,
yes. Or possibly, or if.
Yeah.
It's
like we're trying to discuss. It's difficult to discuss it in a way of then trying to set out the rules for it.
Yeah, I think over the next 10 years' time, hopefully development won't be fast enough in order for this not to become... I think climate change is a big topic. That's going to need to become more of a discussing point, but I think this will have to be on par with climate change in the importance of how much it gets discussed in the coming 20 years. So, like you could say maybe inequality, climate change, artificial intelligence. Maybe I'm missing something else really important. But anyway, because people usually say 3 and they don't include artificial intelligence, so I feel like I'm missing something important. But anyway, it's going to have... I think it should be something that everyone knows about as an issue, just like climate change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you about these ethical discussions, though.
Like, how do you even begin it?
Yeah.
How do you kind of set out an agenda and try and come up with, like, say, by this time we should need to have a decision? Can you even do that? Like
Especially, you can't possibly anticipate the path. This will, if it were to be developed, then it would become an entire field of study. Yeah. It wouldn't be, say, part of engineering or physics. It would, assuming it was to simulate the human brain, then you would have it as a subject in itself.
Yeah.
And you can't say what's going to happen, so you can't create those laws.
No.
And we're even more confused.
Yeah, you just... Oh, it's so difficult.
It's good fun, though.
Yeah, and you can't focus on individual problems because there are simply way too many of them.
What do you mean by individual problems?
Individual problems, so saying, let's say, the effect on the labour market.
Yeah, okay.
That's a massive problem in itself. So you say, the effect on cargo truck drivers.
Yeah.
And then you look at that, and then the problem with that is it's almost like a dictionary. You have to look up other things in order to know it. So you need to solve all of these problems at the same time so that you can draw upon information in other fields. So that it's unsolvable, which would suggest it's not a very sensible thing to proceed with, but people won't do it because they're curious. Such a negative future.
Have we got a way of concluding?
I
think in conclusion, the most important, the ethical debate is as important as the technological debate.
Yeah.
It's good that we've done it as 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I feel overall we spent more time on the ethics and the technology.
So your sort of take on it is we shouldn't create something?
I think a lot of... I don't want to say stop the technological development, but slow it down maybe. If it's going too fast, get everyone talking about it as much as they're talking about climate change. Come to some sort of consensus. Try and do as hard as you can to make the development as slow as possible, because it's still going to be really fast.
Yeah.
If it's helping to develop itself, it needs to be fast, and try and find a way to limit it at some point, because otherwise we're fucked.
Yeah, I think that's the most reasonable approach to it.
Yeah.
But
whereas yours is more...
I'm just going to say, go for it.
Yeah.
But let's just, I mean, I think it's going to happen anyway, so let's just kind of run with it. Go as full into it as possible.
Yeah. I would say create really powerful application-specific intelligence.
Yeah.
Don't go with general intelligence at all, but it will happen. People will want to do it.
Yeah.
And because of that, you need to preempt it, and you need to make sure you have legislation in place.
I mean, the thing is, if you do say, you're not allowed to create general intelligence, and it's likely going to happen anyway because there are going to be people working on it illegally. So why don't you just have the best people in the world concentrating on creating it so that you can create the best one possible, the most sort of responsible and kind of good in
inverted commas.
You
need to learn this one.
Yeah, I always forget it. Yeah. So why not have the best people in the world all working on it together?
Because
then you speed up the development of it.
Yeah, it needs to be slow.
It's a paradox. This is...
Yeah.
This problem doesn't look very solvable.
No, definitely not by us, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're talking out of our backsides constantly for the last 2 hours, but it's been good fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's end it there then. Yeah.
Watch this space.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.